talking about the marine and blue economy there, but let's look at the wider market and the economy as we count down to June 12, when President Tinubu will officially turn 2 years in office. And we're doing that in the studio here with Mr. Oluwaseyi Odufuwa, is the Chief Operating Officer of Skyview Capital. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Odufuwa, and welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me once again. It's the Managing Director, CEO.
I bet. Yeah, sorry, you were some time ago, but you're out of there now. Yeah, good to have you. So, we're counting to 2 years now of President Tinubu. You deal with the funds, the financing, and all of that. The reforms have received a lot of applause. Has it received a lot of applause from your corner?
Yes, we mentioned so many here the last time I came, and in different forums too. So looking from our trajectory where we're coming from a deficit end to an equilibrium point. And in economics, the equilibrium point is the zero level. It means that if you look at the Fitch ratings, it says that from negative to stable. So it means that the economy, presently as we speak, is in a stable state. And when you look at the trajectory, we're coming from a zero, like I said, a negative point. Let's look at some of the policies. You know, we have all read about subsidy removal, floating of the naira. We have looked at revenue to debt servicing, 98% to 68%. Presently, at about 45%, because total debt servicing for 2025 is 16 trillion. And if you calculate it to revenue, it's about 45%. And for 2025, I know that by the time the administration completes this year, we will have about 40% revenue to debt servicing. Look at oil production. Oil production, as we speak presently, an average of 1.75 million barrels per day. We're coming from about 1.3 to about 1.45, and presently 1.7. So it means more revenue. Look at capital import, capital inflow. It has gathered about 43% more. Look at the markets too. I mean the equities market, the bonds market. In 2024, 38%.
So you're attributing all of this to the reforms?
Yes,
but
I'm
the man
attributing.
on the streets will not agree with you.
I agree.
Yes. People are hungrier than before. Things are more expensive than before. So I'm sure you're in a tush place and you can say all of this. But if you get out on the street there, I don't think you will come out safe.
I think that for the man on the street, we must know where we are coming from. For the man on the street, I want to...
For the man on the street, the bag of rice was not as expensive as...
Yes, you know...
But the man on the street, the dollar did not go for as much as it's going now.
Yes, I agree with you. And so, if we want to take it back again, for the man on the street, we were coming from somewhere. At that point, I've mentioned revenue to debt servicing alone, 98%. The economy was almost gone. Probably, you know, navigating towards a Somalian economy. And if you look at it presently today, you know, what are the kind of cushions Nigeria have as a country? It is quite low. We are highly dependent, almost 90% on oil revenues. That is our total revenue in terms of what we get from
have we diversified now?
That is part of the things we should look at in the next 2 years to go. So
all right, but we haven't looked at it in the first 2 years.
Yes, so having looked at it in the first 2 years, we're coming from somewhere. The economy was an artificial economy. So there was nothing like investment for the economy. So if you look at it as at that period, Nigeria was not really living as Nigeria. Look at dollar now, for example, as at that period. It was not reflecting it. Naira was not reflecting its true price as at that time too. And there was no way we could get, you know, foreign direct investment at all. And
I hope you saw that foreign direct investment dropped.
Yes, it has
in the first quarter.
I agree with you. Okay. I agree with you. So, but what is total capital import? We're over $2 billion. which is quite significant, about 34% growth. You are talking of FDI. FDI is different from capital import. You know, FDI is a component of capital import. So total capital import, about over $2 billion, 34% increase.
So FPI, should we be celebrating FPI now?
FDI, foreign direct investment.
That's what I'm saying. Should we be celebrating FPI, the portfolio investment, which we know that at the blink of an eye, it leaves us hanging because FDI has dropped, and that's the main investment.
I agree with you. You see, in economics, you can look at it from different perspectives. But, okay, look at, for instance, now, some school of thought will tell you that our total GDP has tanked. While some school of thought will tell you, no, it has not. After we rebased, we're at over $500 billion.
No, we don't have the rebased GDP here. No. We have the rebased inflation.
No, I know. I'm saying that if you calculate it as an economy, it's over 500. And we'll still get to that, you know, probably before the end of second quarter. But most of those people who don't see the trajectory of government in a positive light will say that it has tanked to about 198 billion.
No, but because people will ask you, what do the numbers do to the man on the street? What do the numbers do to our purchasing power? So even if when you quote those
there's GDP, the total GDP.
That's what
there's
I'm
a difference,
saying.
you know. So, but let's look at it from where we're coming from. You know, dollar at that time, you know, in comparison with naira, was not reflecting its true value, and that's the simple truth. And that's what I want to speak to the conscience of an average Nigerian. Now, as at then, there were plenty of arbitrage in the system. You will get dollar at different rates. Some people will go to the CBN, feel backdated from M, and get dollar at 168, while you and I, who are part of the masses, will get about 407.
I don't see you as that blood for.
Who will get dollar for over 470 naira. So the president came and said that enough of this arbitrage. Naira must reflect its true value. It's just like a wound that you have been nursing for about 20 years. It can't heal in 1 year. There's a process for healing. You must first get to the depth of the wound. That is where we are now. So that's our equilibrium point. Then before you begin to add everything a doctor will do, dress it well, and it begins to heal. Our healing process has begun. So we are almost getting at the end of the tunnel.
So from your perspective now, we are in the right trajectory. What do you see by the end of 2025? Okay,
so beautiful. And if you look at it now, so many rating companies, so many international organizations, including World Bank and IMF, has agreed that Nigeria is on the right perspective. But, you know, their postulations are saying 8 to 10 years or even more. But as an economist, we must look at the time frame of a particular government, which is 8 years. We must look at it from that perspective. I'm not saying that this government will take another 4 years.
I hope you're not preaching in 2027.
No. I'm not preaching, and that's why I'm saying I'm quoting, you know, international organizations. And so we can only project it for the lifespan of a government by law. And so that's why I'm saying that we should look at it in terms of 8 years, in terms of our growth. You can imagine if there's consistency in these policies of government in terms of fiscal policies and monetary policies. And so for 2025, going to 2026, I was on this show some time ago when I said that we'll begin to see growth in 2025. Growth will increase in 2026, and by 2027, Nigerians will begin to feel full growth. But I want to say it very publicly that we do not expect price of goods and services to go back to its base in 2022 and 2023. It cannot, because look at world economy over. You know, economies are tanking, and they are thinning out, and you know, it cannot be the same again. But Nigeria is stable as we speak, and will begin to move forward. Look at oil production.
Okay, so Mr. Dufour, there are a lot of people who have said that the reforms are actually welcome, even the World Bank and the IMF.
Yes.
But they said they had advised the government to put in a social welfare program before embarking, you know, on some of these reforms.
Which I also agree.
We haven't seen, you know, that social welfare program that's solid enough to deal with the consequences. Okay. And then there are others who are saying, while the reforms are impressive, the reason it looks like the reforms are not as efficient as they should be is because the government hasn't blocked the leakages that still exist in the government. And so that is sapping away the gains of those reforms?
Okay, so I will agree with you partially on your projections. But
It's not my projection. There are perspectives.
okay, perspectives
Yes.
of
Conversations
various
going on there.
conversations.
Yes.
I'll agree with you partially, but we must look at it in a broader perspective. And there's no way we want to move forward without looking at where we are coming from. Government leakages, I want to agree with you perfectly that government needs to do more in terms of blocking leakages. And if we take it from a right perspective, I'll still say that economic growth, inflationary pressures, and a few more is being stabilized. And look at growth, for instance. We grew at about 3.8% in 2024 because of the issues of tariffs worldwide. Growth has tanked world over, even in developed economies. But as we speak, we are still growing at about 3.1. Projection for the year is about 3.6. I'm talking of IMF and World Bank. Projection for the Nigerian government is about 4.6 CBN, which is quite a tall order. But blocking of leakages, I agree with you. Programs of government at this point is yielding results, and it will yield more. And then looking at the second one you mentioned,
the social welfare.
So for social welfare program, we know quite well that there's a lot of social welfare programs that government is currently running, and there will still be more. We have lots of them, and it's tied down to the youth in terms of educational welfare programs, the loan programs, social infrastructure, even for there's one they opened, over 300,000 people have benefited, which has to do with consumer program, consumer products that you can also get from government. And that one, over 600,000 to 700,000 people have keyed into it. But we want to say that those reforms are good. There's no way government at the center can manage all. And I want us to shift the conversation to states too. In the last 2 years, what have states earned? About 40 to 45% increase in terms of allocations. I'm talking of states and local government put together now. There's no local government in this country that has not earned over 350 million, minimum, as we speak. 40 to 45% increase. So those increase in states, because the federal government will take care of federal programs, federal policies, federal healthcare policies, federal transport policies, and other amiable programs that will reduce sufferings. But where does your constituency lie as a citizen of the country? Is it with the federal or the states? So for the states, they are the closest to you, and local government. How well are these governors using these funds to better the lives of their citizens? We must ask those questions. You know, as a journalist, you must begin to project it and look at a state like Lagos State. How much do they generate in IGR? How much do they collect in federal allocations? What is the impact per local government? So when we begin to look at this conversation, then we begin to look at it. How many of these states have, increased subsidies in terms of palliatives, healthcare subsidies, mother and child subsidy, transport subsidy, even drugs, medications, subsidy, and so many other forms of subsidies that can also come up. So, as a state, and if you look at it, then we begin to have a good conversation to say that, okay, Nigeria is moving on the right path. On the federal part, they can't cover all grounds. But for policies, especially our monetary policies have stabilized the economy. For fiscal policies, you and I know that it takes time. A major one that I would love government to look at is power, which is key. What has federal government done? Federal government has already signed the 2024 electricity bill. How many states have domesticated it? What are states looking at to bring in multinationals, General Electric, Siemens, and the like, to come and put major infrastructure in states? So it means that states now can generate, they can distribute, and they can also bill. So how many states are looking at that? I know there are conversations in Lagos State around that corridor, but how many states are taking advantage? Look at even the local government autonomy that Mr. President signed into law. Tell me, how many governors have started releasing directly. FAC has said that they will release directly to local government. Look at the conversations. How many of them has agreed as we speak? So as we put our searchlight on the federal government, we should also beam it wider on state government.
I guess that's why we have
dividends of democracy can spread around, equitably to all parts of the country.
Well, I guess that's why we have people like you here, Mr. Odufuwa, to help us spread the conversation to the subnationals. It's not that we don't discuss them, but I mean, you would agree with me that failure, success starts from the president, and then it goes down. He has the stick, he has the carrot.
I agree with you.
But thank you so much for giving us a direction that the next 2 years should be on subnationals.
Yes.
We'll follow up on that even more than we've done before. The Chief Executive Officer of Skyview Capital, Mr. Oluwaseyi.
Capital Plus.
Capital Plus.
Limited.
Mr. Oluwaseyi, thank you so much for your time and welcome.
Thank you.